and the board refused to pay them a cent for coming to their school. And we've never had speakers of this caliber at our school before. That showed me that they really didn't want the students to be educated. Because if they did, I think that they would leap on an opportunity like this. I think most schools would leap on an opportunity like this to teach the students. But they not only were difficult in arranging to get these speakers to speak, but they refused to give them anything, thanking them for their time. So all three speakers still agreed to speak for free, which is incredible. So I was really glad that they came down to do this for us. And I have to say that even though there's been a lot of aggravation going through this whole situation, I think that it was worth it. Because all these issues that I've been talking about are very important to me and very important to the country. Obviously, separation of church and state for one. But something that is key that I think we're starting to slip in is teaching the students correctly about the sciences. I think that students would be more inclined to actually think critically about things rather than necessarily listen to whatever they may hear at church. I think that if we were to teach them more about not only to memorize facts, but how to think, right? How to actually process information, to try and actually learn the material rather than just studying it for the test, I think we would be a lot more successful in reaching to people and having people understand why these issues are so important. My advice, I guess, to anyone who faces any kind of injustice, especially students, because we're kind of in a very difficult situation, is just don't be afraid. Just go through with what you have to do. Because the rewards that you can get, even if you don't get any specific reward, even if you don't get public acknowledgement, you know that you did something right. You know that you tried. And if you actually end up accomplishing something, you'll feel even better. I think that we all have to start doing this. Because for me personally, it was hard to do what I did because there were no other students in that school who would support me. Nobody in the science department who would support me. Nobody who would publicly support me from the history department. So teachers and students, both together, never came out to help. And if there was one student, or, well, I guess I shouldn't say one teacher, because one teacher did support me from the whole school, but if there was one student, or two students, or three students that supported me and came out publicly and said, yes, this teacher did do this during class, it would be a lot easier for me. And I think it would be a lot easier for everybody if things like this were to happen. And the more people that you have to help in a cause, the easier it is to accomplish your goals. And so I hope that everybody will learn from this. And thank you very much. Now, if anybody, questions, I guess? I'm just looking at pretty, okay, questions, okay, yeah, please, and
We'll wait for the,
oh, okay, sure. Yeah, they're going to wait for the mic. And I'd love to answer questions, so please think of good ones, make them tough.
Matthew, I was really moved by your story. Can you tell us a little bit what's happened since all of this? Are you still at the same school? Have you switched schools? What is your social life like in the school? I was just curious, what's sort of the fallout from it, and where do you hope to go from here?
Well, boy, a lot has happened. Well, one thing that I forgot to mention that did occur was in the middle of the year, during the semester switch, the class that I was taking was a level 1 U.S. history class. Level 1 basically is an accelerated class, and unless you end up failing that class, you don't switch into another classroom during the switch of the semester. Well, I found out that I was removed from the class. Not only was I removed from the class, every student who had taken him the first semester was taken out of the classroom and given to another teacher on a different floor. I found out that the reason this happened was because my teacher, Mr. Vaskevich, had written a letter requesting that I be removed. And so that was something that did change over time, and so I only had him for one semester, which I guess is a good thing in a way. But now, currently, I'm still at the same high school, and students are pretty much the same. It's a little bit easier because I was a junior last year, and there were a lot of seniors who had Mr. Veskevich the year before, and so now they're gone, which made it a little bit easier for me, but it's still tough. But I actually brought something with me today. There's a blog out right now. It's from the Canessa Corner. Kevin Canessa was a writer at our local paper, The Observer, and he has a blog now in which he's given Mr. Veskevich a column, I guess you could say. It's called Mr. P's Ponderings. Recently, March 25th actually, he came out with a new one. There were dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. It really is quite a shock, because he goes through why he believes dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark. He says that there was plenty of room on the ark, which he uses the measurements that were actually given in the Bible. He points those out and says that, oh yes, there indeed was enough room for all the dinosaurs and all the animals to be on the ark. So he's doing stuff like this, but also I've seen him online also say that the founders were devout Christians. They weren't deists. A lot of historical conflicts. And I've also heard from students this year who are taking his class that he's gone back to doing exactly what he did before. The problem is, I can't do anything about it anymore. I'm not in this class. But I tell these students that it's in your hands now. If you're upset enough to come to tell me that he's still doing this, then do something about it. It's much easier now, and I wish that a student would. And I've told them I'll help if you need help, but you have to do it. And I'm just hoping that eventually one student will come out and challenge what it is that he's doing. Because to me, I'm not 100% sure that he's doing this in class still. But from what I've been reading on Mr. P's Ponderings, and from what I've been hearing from fellow students, and with my past experience with this teacher, I have almost no doubt that he's continuing to do it. So, please, one student. That's all I need.
If you were to do it again, I mean, if this experience would you spend more time trying to organize support among students, or did you try? The question really is the solitary act versus the organizational act. Which do you think is more effective? Which was open and available to you?
I think the organizational is always a lot easier. More people you have, obviously, the easier it is. But I did try to get students to support me. I did try to get teachers to support me. I had some teachers who I spoke to that said, "Oh, I completely agree. I've heard from some of my students that he did this a while ago." They wouldn't come out publicly and say that, and they wouldn't even go to their bosses to say it. I think the reason is they were scared that they would be in trouble. Simple as that. And there were some conversations that I had with teachers who were very upset with what he was doing. They just would not do anything about it. And it's really, really unfortunate. But I did get support from a lot of groups outside of my hometown. Obviously, all the ethical culture societies, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, People for the American Way, Center for Inquiry, the Interfaith Alliance. I had a lot of people who were on my side. And so that did help a lot, because I don't think I could have accomplished as much without lawyers even from Wilkie Farr and Gallagher and the ACLU. I could not have accomplished what I did. And so I'm glad that we have that available. And I think that maybe the reason some people don't do something when they see something going wrong is because they already feel what it's going to be like if they make a stand. I think they know what may be coming, that sense of being alone. But they have to know that there's organizations out there that can help. And there was a lot of that kind of assistance, luckily.